There are moments in life that don't warn you before they destroy you. No thunder, no omen, no dramatic music, just a sentence spoken in a calm voice, delivered like a gift. "It's just the boys tonight. You don't need to come." That was the beginning. He didn't say it cruelly. He didn't roll his eyes or slam a door. He said it while tying his shoes in our hallway, laughing under his breath like it was obvious. A party for his birthday. His friends, his people, not mine. His words hovered in the air, light as dust. "I'll be bored," I said. He smiled, the kind of smile men use when they're already finished talking to you. Exactly. And that was it. No hug, no "I'll miss you," no "I wish you could be there," just "I'll call you later," tossed over his shoulder like a crumpled receipt. When the door shut, it sounded less like a goodbye and more like a boundary. I sat on the couch for 3 hours, not crying, not pacing, just thinking. Thinking about how many times I had been asked to shrink myself. Don't wear heels taller than him. Don't talk louder than him. Don't laugh too much around his friends. Don't make him look soft. There is no bruise for that kind of hurt. No bruise you can photograph. You just lose inches of yourself quietly, like someone stealing pages from your diary one night at a time. I told myself that this party was harmless, a night of drinks and stupid jokes, a cluster of men shouting about football, nothing more. And then at 9:41 p.m., my phone buzzed. His best friend, not a text, not a voice note, just a location pin, no caption, no context, a dot on a map that said "come." I stared at it like it was a trap. Maybe he sent it by accident. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Maybe your brain will try to protect you from the truth until the last possible moment. But there was something in the pit of my stomach that whispered, "You already know." I got dressed slowly, not because I wanted to look pretty, because I wanted to look present. I chose a simple black dress, the one he used to say made me look too serious. A coat, lip balm, keys, no perfume, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want to smell like someone trying to impress him. I walked down the stairs, locked the door behind me, and sat in the car, hand on the steering wheel, heart in my mouth. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't call a friend. I just listened to my own breathing. That's how you know you're walking into something real. You don't distract yourself. You prepare to witness. I drove through the city like someone chasing the ghost of their own confidence. Streetlights blurred against the windshield in long golden streaks. Every traffic light felt like a test. Turn back. Do you really want to know? You can still pretend everything is fine. But I kept driving, because when a relationship is dying, the only thing worse than finding the truth is living with the suspicion. The GPS led me to a gated neighborhood, the kind with houses shaped like mini hotels. BMWs lined the road. Women in dresses clustered outside the entrance. Laughter spilled from the open doors like it belonged to someone stronger than me. I parked across the street. The bass from the speakers inside shook the ground beneath my feet. I stepped out and zipped my coat. I thought I would feel anger, but what I actually felt was clarity. Someone was lying to me. I just didn't know how loudly. At the entrance, 2 girls brushed past me. One whispered, "She's so lucky. Look at her." I didn't know who they meant. I didn't know why they said lucky. I just kept walking. Inside, everything was warm, loud, and curated. Clusters of strangers I had never met toasted champagne. Men filmed each other on their phones. Women fixed their hair in the reflections of tinted windows. It wasn't just the boys. It wasn't even remotely casual. It was a celebration. A real one. Not the one I had planned for him at home. I moved through the crowd quietly. No one stopped me. No one questioned why I was there. I realized something painful. I was invisible. I was a girlfriend in his life, but not in his world. That distinction matters. It kills you slowly. I found him in the center of the room, standing beneath a huge chandelier, jacket exchanged for a suit vest, hair styled, cheeks flushed with attention. He looked alive, more alive than I had seen him in months. His best friend stood beside him, hands clasped, nervous energy vibrating, like someone who knew a secret and couldn't contain it. I opened my mouth to call his name, but the DJ cut the music. A spotlight snapped on. People screamed. Phones shot up like fireworks, and there he was, on one knee. A woman stood before him, short gold dress, hair curled perfectly, eyes wide, heart beating out of her chest. His voice trembled ever so slightly as he held up the ring. Not the ring we talked about. Not the ring he showed me once in a jewelry store window and whispered, "When the time is right." This one was bigger, brighter, shameless. He said her name, not mine, and asked her to marry him. The room exploded. cheering, crying, hands over mouths. I didn't scream. I didn't drop my purse. I didn't run out. I just inhaled deeply and moved closer, step by step, not because I wanted to ruin the moment, because I wanted to see the truth close enough to never forget it. And when he finally saw me, he didn't jerk back. He didn't gasp my name. He just froze, like someone caught in a photo he didn't want taken. As I stood there in the center of that crowd, as his fiancé-to-be held the ring to her chest, as the cheers died down into confused murmurs, I wasn't thinking about revenge, or heartbreak, or betrayal. I was thinking, how many times did he tell her the exact same lies he told me? Before we continue, comment below where you're watching from, and if you're new here, subscribe. This channel tells the stories people whisper about but never say out loud. He didn't blink. That's what struck me first. You would expect shock. A gasp, a hand to the chest, something. But he just froze, like his brain had slammed into a wall it couldn't climb. His fiancée-to-be still clutched her hand to her mouth, smiling with the kind of trembling joy you only see in people who truly believe they've been chosen. Her voice was tiny, trembling. "Oh my God. Yes, yes." The crowd cheered again, as if the universe could drown me out. But all eyes weren't on her now. They were on him, on the man who had thought he was clever enough to control two timelines, the life he lived with me and the one he built for her. And he knew in that single instant that those timelines had collided. I stopped walking when I was 3 steps away, close enough to smell his cologne, close enough to make him swallow his own name. He finally blinked. Then, like a man stepping onto cracking ice, he stood up from one knee. The ring box was still open in his hand. He didn't close it. He didn't drop it. He just stared at me, eyes wide, throat tight. What are you doing here?" he whispered. Not "I can explain," not "it's not what it looks like," not "please don't go." No. He asked me why I was there, as if I had walked into someone else's living room uninvited. I studied him for a moment. His jaw worked hard, like his teeth were grinding behind his lips. He took a step toward me, almost panicked. But the girl with the ring, the one on the receiving end of his proposal, grabbed his sleeve. "Wait, who is she?" Her voice wasn't angry. Not yet, just bewildered. She didn't look at me like competition. She looked at me like a stranger who had stumbled into her wedding rehearsal. He didn't answer her. He turned fully to me, voice low and urgent. "I told you tonight wasn't for you." The room inhaled, all at once, as if he'd slapped me across the face with the sentence. I felt every eye on us shift. Her expression crumpled. "Not for her?" she asked. He ignored her again, this time louder. "You weren't supposed to be here." He said it like I was a problem, an inconvenience, a stain on his celebration. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was absurd, because there was something unbelievable about watching a man try to erase your existence while you stand right in front of him. From somewhere behind the crowd, his best friend finally stepped forward, the one who sent me the pin. His face said everything. He hadn't expected me to come, but he desperately needed me to. He didn't call my name. He didn't greet me. He just exhaled like someone who'd been holding a secret too long. The bride-to-be tightened her grip on the fiancé's sleeve. "Tell me who she is," she demanded. Her voice was louder now, not hysterical, not jealous, afraid. In that moment, I realized something she didn't know yet. She had the most to lose. A dream, a ring, a fantasy built on curated lies. I met her eyes, big, hopeful, soft, the kind of eyes you only have before the world shows its teeth. I didn't want to hurt her. That surprised me. I thought I'd walk in like fire, but I felt like ice instead. Cold, steady, clean. He stepped toward me again, frantic. "Listen, babe." "Babe?" The word floated there between us, like a dead fly in a glass of champagne. The crowd murmured. The bride-to-be's face twisted. "Babe?" She looked at him, then at me, then at him again. Her hand slowly released his sleeve. "You call her." Her voice cracked. "What is happening?" He tried to reach for her, but she stepped back, not angry, instinctively, like she'd touched something hot. He raised his palms, the tone of a politician caught in a scandal. Okay, everyone needs to calm down." That was when the crowd turned. You could feel it, dozens of people deciding to shut up and watch, phones tilted downward, discreet but ready, lips parted, eyes sharpened. It was no longer a party, it was a spectacle. He pointed at me, voice shaking. "She's crazy." I didn't let him finish. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just spoke clearly. "I'm his fiancé." The room cracked. Literally. Someone dropped a champagne glass. A woman gasped so loudly it echoed. The DJ, bless his soul, cut the music. Silence flooded in so violently, it felt like a second heartbeat. His new bride's face drained of color. She stared at me, shaking her head slowly. No, no, that can't be true. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just nodded once. He stepped closer, hissing, "Don't do this." I tilted my head. "Do what?" "Tell the truth." He shook his head violently, tears forming in the corners of his eyes. You're trying to embarrass me." Embarrass him. That word. That was his priority. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. His image. His best friend finally spoke. "Bro, you said she knew." The room erupted into whispers. He snapped around, snarling at him. "Why did you send her the location?" The friend swallowed, eyes flicking to me. "I didn't think you'd actually do it." His fiancé-to-be clutched her own ringed hand. "Do what?" Her voice broke on the last word. Not dramatic. Devastated. "Tell me what he did," she whispered. Like there was still a version of reality she could cling to. He looked between the two of us, stunned, like he had forgotten which script he rehearsed. "I didn't steal his thunder. I didn't shout he cheated. I didn't call him names. I simply told her, he promised to propose to me, before the end of this year." Her eyes widened. Tears surged. No, he wouldn't. "Ask him," I said. Not at her. Not with pity. Not with malice. Just, ask him. She turned to him, trembling. "Is she lying?" He didn't answer. He didn't even try. He just reached out, desperate to catch her wrist, and she snatched her hand away like he was poison. That was when the crowd stopped pretending to be neutral. It wasn't my word against his. It was his silence against the truth. The truth is loud in silence. Phones started recording. People whispered things like, "Oh my God, is this real? No way, he really did that." His face flushed red. He lunged toward me again, voice cracking. "You shouldn't be here." I stepped backward. Not in fear, in clarity. "I wasn't supposed to see what you did to her," I said, just like she wasn't supposed to see what you did to me. 2 timelines, 1 liar, and not enough hands to cover the holes in his story. I turned to the fiancé-to-be, calm, steady. "I didn't come to ruin anything," I said. "I came to see the truth, just like you're seeing it now." She shook her head, tears pouring. I didn't know." I nodded. "I know you didn't." And I meant it, because I recognized that look. The expression of a woman discovering that love can be a trap, not because she was weak, but because she trusted someone who sharpened lies like knives. She stared at him. Her voice dropped to a whisper soaked in disbelief. "Did you tell her you loved her too?" He opened his mouth, and that was the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing one woman, fear of losing both. Fear of consequences that could no longer be hidden behind pretty dinners and selective invitations. I let the silence hold him down like gravity. Then I asked him, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "How many fiancés do you have?" That was the moment his world began to collapse. Not slowly, all at once, and I didn't lift a finger to help him. If you've never seen a man lose control of a room he once commanded, let me tell you something about it. He doesn't crumble like a tower. He collapses like a bridge, one support at a time, snapping under weight he swore he could carry. That's what happened to him. Not with yelling, not with fists, but with eyes, dozens of them, watching, judging, recording, and worst of all, not believing him anymore. The girl with the ring, the woman who had said yes, the woman who thought she had just won the lottery of love, was no longer smiling. She was shaking. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks like black cracks on porcelain. She turned to me again. "Tell me everything," she whispered. It wasn't an accusation. It was a plea. But before I could respond, his voice shot out like a flare fired into fog. "Stop talking to her. She's..." Spun toward me with desperation burning through his face. "Just leave. Please. Just leave." You'd think that would hurt. It didn't. It was almost funny. He looked like a man trying to kick dirt over a grave he dug with his own hands. His best friend stepped forward, jaw clenched. "Bro, you can't fix this by yelling." "Shut up," he snapped. "You're the reason she's..." The best friend didn't yell back. He just said one word, voice steady, "Enough." That one word hit harder than any of mine. You see, betrayal hurts differently when it comes from someone who helped you build the lie. The fiancé blinked like someone slapped him, and finally, he broke. His whole body snapped toward me. "What do you want from me?" Not "I'm sorry," not "let me explain." He wanted to negotiate the damage. I tilted my head. "I want you to tell her the truth." He laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "You don't want the truth. You want revenge." This time I didn't speak. I simply looked at him, just stared, and he felt it, because when you look at a liar long enough, they feel naked. He turned back to the other girl, desperate. "Baby, listen. She's lying. She hates that we're happy. She's obsessed." She recoiled. "Don't call me baby." Something snapped in her tone. The crowd fell completely silent. The party wasn't an audience anymore. It was a jury, and he was the defendant. I stepped a little closer to her. Not too close, just enough so she could see my face clearly. "My name is real," I said. "My address is real. My relationship of 3 years is real." I paused. "He sleeps at my apartment on weekdays." The room gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another, "No way." A third, 3 years. She stared at him, trembling. "Is that true?" He didn't answer. His eyes flitted from me to her, to the crowd like a wild animal looking for escape routes. She raised her voice. "Is it true?" He swallowed. Hard. Then, panic-driven. "She's exaggerating. It wasn't 3. I didn't." She screamed. "You proposed to me." Her voice cracked through the air like thunder. Every head snapped toward her, and she did something I didn't expect. She grabbed the ring and ripped it off her finger. She didn't throw it at him. She stalked to the nearest table and slammed it down on the polished wood with a sharp, metallic crack. The sound echoed. The chandelier trembled. People flinched. He stared at the ring as if it had betrayed him too. Then she rounded on him with a voice carved from fresh pain. "When were you going to tell me she existed? After the wedding?" He looked at me like a drowning man searching for a rope. "Please don't." I didn't let him finish. "Tell her about the last time you stayed with me," I said, calm as water. She whipped her head toward him. "What?" he sputtered. "That was just what? I needed medicine," I said softly. "You used the word medicine because you were stressed." Her jaw dropped. Everyone in that room remembered a time they'd heard that excuse. Stress, work, pressure. How many women had swallowed lies wrapped in mental health labels? "We call it empathy. They use it as camouflage." He shook his head violently. "No, no, no, stop. Please, stop." He wasn't begging me. He was begging for silence, because silence had always protected him. Noise was suddenly killing him. The other girl wiped her mascara with the back of her hand and marched straight up to him. "You told me you lived with roommates." He blinked. She continued, "You told me you couldn't have me over because your roommate's girlfriend hated guests." He said nothing, and every time I asked to do something special for your birthday, her voice cracked. "You said birthdays were too emotional." I laughed once, soft, painful. He stared at me like he wished I would disappear. "Last year," I said, "I saved for weeks to buy him a watch." He cried when I gave it to him. I looked at her. He told me no one had ever celebrated his birthday properly. The other woman froze. Tears slid down her cheeks in slow motion. He told me the same thing. The crowd gasped collectively. Like a wave. One long breath of disbelief. Someone muttered behind me. He was copy-pasting relationships. Another voice. "That man is dangerous." He finally snapped. "You don't understand what it's like to build a future." The other girl shouted. "I had a future with you." "And I had a past," I said quietly. That sentence landed, hard. She looked at me with the aching recognition of someone realizing the puzzle pieces don't just fit, they form a trap. She wiped her cheeks with shaking fingers. "How many women?" she whispered. He didn't answer. "So I did." "One that I know of," I said, "and one standing right in front of me." Her knees buckled. She steadied herself on the edge of the table. She looked at him again, voice raw. "Did you ever love me?" He opened his mouth, and I swear, you could see the lie forming behind his teeth. A perfect lie. Polished. Refined. Practiced. Then something unexpected happened. His best friend stepped forward. He didn't take sides. He didn't yell. He didn't defend. He just said, "Tell the truth, man." And that was the kill shot, because liars can handle silence, but they cannot handle honesty from someone they once counted as an ally. His chest rose and fell. His eyes darted around like insects trapped in a jar. He looked at me, then at her, then at the ring, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked small, not charming, not confident, not powerful, just a boy caught playing with hearts he thought were toys. He whispered, "I never meant for it to go this far." The other girl covered her mouth in horror. I didn't flinch. I just stared at him. "It always goes this far." If you've ever watched someone's arrogance drain out of their body, you'll know it doesn't happen all at once. It leaks, bit by bit, like a cracked faucet, drip, 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 until suddenly you realize the floor is flooded and the room is ruined. He stood there, face pale, hands trembling, staring at the ring on the table as if it were a grenade no one had defused. "I never meant for it to go this far," he whispered. The other woman pressed a hand to her chest, mascara running in jagged streaks. Her voice tore itself free. "You didn't mean to ruin my life?" He flinched, not because she was loud, Because she was calm. That kind of calm is terrifying. It's the tone people use when anger has burned through every layer of emotion and left only ash behind. People were still recording, phones hovered discreetly, angled just right, not out of cruelty, out of hunger. Humans eat tragedy the way wolves eat flesh, slow at first, then ravenous, and in that room I realized something. He wasn't the only one whose life was about to break. Every witness was about to choose a side. I didn't speak. I didn't touch anyone. I let silence do the work. Silence is a scalpel. It cuts deeper than shouting ever could. He tried to step toward her. She backed away. He reached his hand out. She recoiled. Then she did something that gutted every woman in the room. She apologized. "I'm sorry," she said, voice shaking. "I didn't know about her. I swear I thought it was just." There was a collective gasp. I stepped forward and gently shook my head. "You don't owe me an apology." Her eyes widened. I saw her see me for the first time, not as a rival, not as the villain in her story, but as a mirror. We were both collateral damage. We were both the punchline of the same joke. She opened her mouth again. And that was when his mother stepped out from the crowd. I didn't know she was there, until I heard the voice every son fears. "Is this true?" The air grew sharp, like oxygen was suddenly made of glass. People moved aside, clearing a path. There she was, elegant dress, pearled earrings, hair pinned neatly. A woman who had mastered the art of pretending her son was more than he was. Motherhood and denial are sisters. She looked at him, not at me, not at the fiancé, not at the scandal, at him. Her eyebrow lifted the way mothers do when they already know the answer. "Is this true?" No softness, no plea, no hand to his cheek, just judgment, clean and surgical. He swallowed. His voice cracked. "Mom, she snapped. "Don't call me that right now." The room murmured. His shoulders fell. Something inside him deflated, as if her words had popped the balloon of his ego. She looked at me then, slowly. "Is he telling the truth?" I met her stare. "I don't know what he told you. I know what he told me." And I began listing them, not dramatically, not hysterically, like evidence. He told me he hated birthdays. He told me he didn't want attention. He told me the future scared him. And he told me he wasn't ready to propose. I nodded toward the ring. But he was ready for her. Every woman in that room felt the stab. Half of them had been that girl at least once. His mother turned to the fiancé, her voice low. "And he told you." The fiancé wiped her face. "He said he was mine." Silence. Then she whispered, "He told me she was his crazy ex." A tremor rippled through the party. Crazy ex. The oldest weapon in the narcissist's toolbox. Label her unstable. Label her emotional. Label her dramatic. And everything she says becomes invalid. He finally snapped. "I was trying to protect you." He shouted at the fiancé, voice cracking like splintering glass. She recoiled, stunned. "Protect me? By hiding her?" He pointed at me like I was a disease. "She's intense. She twists things. She's Tasha." I stayed quiet. He panicked more. "She was suffocating me. She talked about marriage every day. I couldn't breathe." That was a lie so bold and sloppy the crowd laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. And then the mother stepped forward, eyes burning. "If she was suffocating you," she hissed, "why didn't you leave?" He blinked. I didn't want to hurt her." His mother scoffed. "No, you didn't want to lose her or her apartment or her salary or her comfort." Her voice lowered into a blade. "You didn't want to lose anything, so you took everything." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The fiancé looked at his mother with terror in her eyes. You knew about her." "No," the mother replied, "but I suspected." That sentence was colder than any scream. Not "I trusted my son." Not "I believed in him." I suspected. Years of excuses condensed into 2 words. He crumbled. All the charm, the confidence, the control, drained away until he looked like a child caught stealing candy. He reached for his mother's hand. She stepped back. "You embarrass yourself," she whispered. "You embarrass me." He looked at her desperately. "Please." "No," just that one syllable. Sharp, final, ice. Then she walked past him to the other woman and said, "I raised him wrong." The fiancé burst into tears. "I wasn't ready for that. None of us were." He dropped to the floor, not kneeling this time but falling, hands in his hair. And here is the thing about watching someone break. You expect it to feel satisfying. It doesn't. It feels like watching someone drown in a pool they built themselves. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I knelt down, meeting his gaze. "You didn't care if you did." He shook his head, tears spilling. It was easier to lie. My throat tightened. Lies are never easier. They're just quiet. He stared at me like I was speaking a language he didn't know. And maybe I was. Empathy is a dialect narcissists cannot hear. Someone to my left whispered, "Are we calling the police or something?" Another, "This is insane." A third, "I'm posting this ASAP." Phones rose again. He looked up at the screens like they were nooses. No, please. This isn't who I am." And for the first time, I believed him. This wasn't who he was pretending to be. This was the truth he spent years hiding. A man who would rather juggle lies than grow the courage to be honest. I stood up. I walked toward the door, not to be dramatic, to leave before pity reached me. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It wasn't him. It was her, the fiancé, eyes swollen, ringless, trembling, like someone whose lungs were learning how to breathe fresh air for the first time. Can I ask you something?" she whispered. I nodded. She looked over her shoulder at him, still on the floor, still choking on his excuses. Was he like this in the beginning? I closed my eyes. The beginning. The golden stage. The love bombing. The sweet text messages. The long voice notes. The grand gestures. The promises whispered into hair at 2 a.m. He was perfect, I said. Her mouth quivered. And that, I added, was the first red flag. She stared at me. Not with jealousy. With recognition. Two women, finally seeing each other clearly, standing on the ashes of the same lie. And in that moment, I wasn't the villain in her story. I was the warning. The moment she asked me if he was perfect at the start, something in the room shifted. People had come expecting a party. Now they were witnessing a crime scene, not with dead bodies, but with dead illusions. The music was gone. The laughter was gone. All that remained was the quiet hum of breath, whispers, and the sound of his shallow, panicked sobs on the floor. The fiancé's mother, still composed like a general surveying casualties, turned her head toward him. She didn't touch him. She didn't console him. She didn't even instruct him to stand. She simply said, "Get up." He looked at her with the desperation of a child lost in a grocery store. "Mom." I said, "Get up." The room held its breath. Slowly, he pushed himself from the ground. Not gracefully, not defiantly. He stood like someone peeling themselves off a battlefield. He wiped his eyes with his sleeve and inhaled shakily. Everyone expected him to defend himself, to accuse me, to beg the woman he had proposed to. Instead, he looked at his mother. "You didn't raise me wrong," he muttered, voice cracking. "You raised me alone." The crowd stiffened. You could feel the invisible doors opening, the vault where family trauma hides. His mother's jaw clenched. "That is not an excuse." "It is," he snapped, suddenly angry. "You don't know what it's like to grow up with a single mother who never enough." It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. It was the voice of someone who buried their own pain decades ago and refuses to excavate it for witnesses. He tried again, louder, more frantic. "You never taught me how to treat women. You don't teach a child not to burn down their own house," she replied. "You expect them not to light the match." The silence that followed was almost violent. A woman near the back whispered, "Damn." Someone else exhaled through their teeth. He opened his mouth, but his mother cut him with a look sharp enough to shave bone. "You think I failed because I didn't hold your hand every time you were lonely," she said. "I failed because I gave you everything and you learned nothing." Her voice didn't shake. Mine did. Because I recognized the tone. I'd heard it before. Not from mothers, but from women who had finally reached the limit of what they could forgive. "This isn't fair," he muttered. "This isn't fair." He turned toward me next. You made me promise you things. I made you nothing," I said calmly. "I believed you when you promised yourself." He recoiled like the words were acid. The fiancé-to-be stepped forward. "Did you ever love me?" Her voice sounded different now. Not frantic, not broken, hollow. The sound of someone staring at an empty house after the furniture has been removed. He looked at her. His shoulders shook with every breath. I liked how you made me feel." She blinked. "That's not love." He swallowed. "It was enough for you," she snapped. Tears streamed down her cheeks again, but these tears weren't weak. These were war tears, the kind born when a dream dies in daylight. "You didn't love me," she said. "You loved the version of yourself that could stand beside me." He hadn't spoken since the single word "enough." He rubbed his face slowly, like he was exfoliating guilt. When he finally spoke, it wasn't to defend, it was a confession. "I tried to warn you," he said quietly, staring at the proposal girl. He kept saying he'd handle it, after his promotion, after the holidays, after he moved in with her. He gestured to me, after. She shook her head, swallowing disbelief. "You knew." He nodded slowly. "I knew there was someone. I didn't know it was this deep." His eyes flicked to me. "I didn't know you were engaged. I thought he was just playing the field. You know, messing around before committing." Someone in the crowd scoffed. "Messing around? That's not messing around." He looked at the person who spoke. "No, it isn't," he said, shame tightening every syllable. "And that's on me." He turned to the fiancé. "But I'm done covering for you." He pulled something from his pocket. A phone. He held it up. "I have messages, screenshots, voice memos." Everyone inhaled. Phones tilted up again, like spectators at a gladiator arena. The fiancé stumbled backward. "No, no, no, no. Don't do this. You did this," his friend said, voice calm. "We're just listening." He unlocked the phone and scrolled. For a moment the room was silent, except for the faint tapping of his thumb against glass. Then he stopped. "Here." He displayed it to the fiancée. A chat, her name at the top, and below, messages from the fiancé. "She won't leave unless I give her a reason. I'll just ghost her. She'll get over it eventually. They always do." The other woman stared. Eyes wide, hands trembling, mouth open. Then her shoulder caved, and she dropped into a chair, like her bones had abandoned her body. His mother whispered something sharp in another language. Someone in the back murmured, "Oh my God, oh my God." He lunged for the phone. The best friend jerked it out of reach. "You don't get to bury this." The fiancé's voice cracked like a cheap window. "You're ruining my life." His friend shouted back, "You ruined your life. I'm just turning the lights on." The fiancé reeled backward, dizzy with embarrassment and rage. He pointed at me. You brought all of this. You poisoned everyone. You wanted to make me look." I stepped forward. "Bad?" He froze. "No," I said softly. "You just looked in a mirror." The room erupted in murmurs. He pointed at the other girl next. You said yes. Why would you do that?" Her voice was ice. "Because I thought I was the only one." His mother finally spoke again. Not loud, not emotional, the kind of tone used for sentencing. "You'll go to therapy." He shook his head. "No, I don't need." She cut him off. "You don't need to? You don't have to? You don't see the point?" Her voice hardened. "That's why every woman in this room is looking at you like a child." The crowd nodded, because she was right. Under the lights, under the silence, under the shame, he looked like a little boy wearing a stolen suit. He slumped into a chair, burying his face in his hands. I wanted someone to make me feel worth something." The fiancé whispered back, "And instead you chose to make everyone else feel worthless." That was the finishing blow. Not shouted, not dramatic, just true. He sobbed into his palms, shaking. Not cute tears, not pretty tears, ugly, choking sobs, the kind that leave snot and spit and panic in their wake. And I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not vengeance, a small ache. Because I finally understood. He didn't destroy us out of strength. He destroyed us because he was never strong enough to be alone. I turned to leave. The worst was over. I didn't need victory. I needed air. But when I reached the door, someone called my name. Not him. The fiancée. Her eyes were swollen, voice ragged, but her spine straight. "Don't leave me alone with him," she said. And for the first time since the night began, I reached for her hand. When she said, "Don't leave me alone with him," something in my chest shifted. Not pity, recognition. I understood that request in a language only women broken by the same man can speak. She didn't need protection from his fists. She needed protection from his words. Because men like him don't attack your body, they dismantle your mind, piece by piece, in rooms full of witnesses, or in rooms where no one sees you disappear. So I nodded. I took her hand, and together we stepped past him. He lifted his head when he saw us move. His face was wet, red, wild. "Where are you going?" he shouted. His voice cracked somewhere between fear and entitlement. No one answered. We walked through the crowd, people stepping aside, their phones still hovering like vultures waiting for final scraps. He stood, staggering, knocking a chair sideways. "Where are you going?" His mother didn't even glance at him. She was too busy escorting his shame to the back of the room. The fiancé didn't look at him until we reached the hallway. Then she turned. Her voice didn't tremble anymore. "Let me make something clear," she said. He stopped mid-step. She squared her shoulders, the ringless finger trembling with defiant gravity. "You did not break my heart tonight," she said. "You broke your own future." He blinked like the words hit him physically. She pointed to the room behind him, filled with people who had seen everything. "You could have lied to everyone forever. You could have married me and cheated quietly. You could have lived 3 lives without getting caught." She gestured to me. "But you were lazy." The crowd gasped. She smiled. "And stupid." He opened his mouth, stunned silent, and she walked out the front door. I followed her. The night air hit like cold water after a fever. Fresh, honest. unfiltered. The mansion behind us was a glowing nest of whispers and broken illusions. I held her elbow as she stepped down the stone stairs. Only then did she finally look at me. Really look. "Do we ever get over something like this?" she whispered. I didn't lie. "No," I said softly. "But we get through it." She stared at her empty hand. The spot the ring had touched her skin still warm. She shivered. "I thought I was special," she said. I exhaled. "You were." She blinked. "He just wasn't." The party door slammed open behind us. I turned. He stumbled out, chest heaving, hair a mess, eyes wild with panic. "You can't just leave," he shouted. He was barefoot, I realized. He had run so fast he'd lost his shoes. People poured out behind him like spectators leaving a stadium. He kept yelling, sprinting toward us. "You can't just walk away from this. You can't." His mother's voice cut him down like lightning. "Yes, they can." She descended the steps like a judge leaving the bench. "You think they are the things you own." Her eyes burned. "But they are the proof you are ordinary." He froze. The crowd hung on every syllable. She didn't look at him when she delivered the final blow. "You will not be forgiven." Something snapped inside him. The rage evaporated. And for the first time that night, he looked like someone who realized the one thing narcissists fear most: irrelevance. He stopped shouting, stopped reaching, stopped demanding, just stood in the driveway, breath fogging in the night air, as two women walked away from the life he built like a stage. We reached my car. She leaned against the passenger door, shoulders shaking, not from tears, from relief. "Thank you," she whispered. I shook my head. "Don't thank me," I said. "Thank whoever sent me the location." She gave a breathy laugh. "And curse him for not sending it sooner." We sat in silence for a moment, the kind of silence two strangers share when trauma has carved a bridge between them. She looked at me. "What do we do now?" And I said the first honest thing that formed in my mind. "We live." Inside the house, someone yelled. Not him. Another voice. Angry, feminine, protective. Then another, like dominoes falling. Women yelling at him, friends shifting sides, whispers turning into judgments, phones capturing the storm he created. I didn't go back. I didn't need front row seats to a disaster I predicted. I had already lived the trailer. I drove her home. Not because we were friends, because survival is easier when you don't do it alone. She curled up against the window and asked, "Did you ever think he was the one?" I smiled sadly. "I thought he was a dream." She wiped her eyes. So did I. We laughed quietly, because sometimes the only way to bury grief is to laugh at the man who thought you'd bury yourself instead. When I parked, she didn't get out immediately. She stayed seated with both hands on the seatbelt buckle, like she wasn't sure if she remembered how to move without permission. "Do you think he'll try to come back?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She swallowed. "And what do I do when he does?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "You don't open the door." Weeks later, people who were at that party sent her screenshots, video clips, voice messages, even apology texts from guests who said, "We didn't know." I laughed when she told me, because that's the thing. When a man breaks two women, the world bothers to notice. When he breaks just one, they call her dramatic. The fiancé lost his job, not because we exposed him, because the company had a brand image, and he wasn't shiny anymore. His best friend stopped covering for him. His mother stopped defending him. And eventually, the house of lies he lived in collapsed, because a man built it without doors or fire exits. We don't talk anymore. Me and her? We text occasionally, send memes, share stupid TikToks, gossip about celebrities. Nothing deep, not trauma bonding, just normal. She is lighter now, and so am I, and every time an unknown number calls my phone, I don't answer. Some ghosts deserve to starve. As for him, I saw him once, months later, alone at a grocery store at 2 a.m., sweatpants, puffy eyes, buying a single bottle of cheap whiskey. He saw me. My basket was full. He looked at me like a starving man staring at someone who had learned how to cook, and I walked past him with the same calm I had the night he proposed to another woman in front of me. Because some people are storms you survive, not homes you rebuild.